In a world where tales of human cruelty are sadly not uncommon, there lies a story so vast, so dark that it's almost beyond belief. Can you picture an entire community brought to the brink of extinction, not by a force of nature, but by their fellow humans? It's a story many haven't heard, yet its magnitude is impossible to ignore. A tale of Assyrian Genocide, which challenges our very understanding of humanity. What happened to them, and why is it not more widely known? Hello and welcome to Eccentric History. Join us as we deep dive into the shadows of the Assyrian Genocide, an event that many have forgotten, but none should. But before we do so, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Let's dive in. Historical background. In the midst of World War I, the globe was in chaos, with powers clashing and territories redrawn. The Ottoman Empire, once a beacon of strength and influence, found itself struggling to maintain its vast territories. Amidst this backdrop of war, the Assyrians, as ancient people with deep-rooted traditions, inhabited the regions of modern-day Turkey, Syria, and Iraq. Their culture, intricately woven within their Christian faith, dated back thousands of years, making them one of the oldest continuously inhabited regions in the world. By 1914, the Assyrians numbered around 600,000 in the empire, contributing to the vibrant tapestry of the region with their unique language, customs, and churches. But as the war intensified, their strategic significance made them a target. The Ottomans, driven by fear and the thirst for dominance, began to view these peaceful inhabitants, their neighbors, for centuries with increasing suspicion. Stories of alliances with Russia and rumors of insurrections began to spread. As the empire's grip weakened, they sought to consolidate power, and the Assyrians, with their distinct identity and faith, found themselves in the crosshairs of a monumental storm. The stage was set, and a tragedy loomed on the horizon. Genesis of the genocide. By 1913, a drastic shift in power dynamics was underway. The Young Turks, a fervent nationalist group, took the reins of the Ottoman Empire. Their vision was simple yet transformative: to carve out a homogeneous empire unified in language, culture, and identity. Pan-Turkish nationalism became their guiding principle, leaving little room for the diverse ethnic and religious groups that had coexisted there for centuries. For the Assyrians, this change in leadership was the beginning of their darkest chapter. 1914 marked the start of a sinister campaign. Assyrian men, along with other non-Turks, were conscripted into forced labor battalions. Ostensibly created to support the war effort, these battalions were nothing short of death camps, where countless men met their demise under grueling conditions. Simultaneously, the empire issued decrees for the confiscation of weapons, systematically disarming the Assyrian population. But this wasn't just about disarmament. It was a calculated move. By stripping them of their means to defend, the Assyrians became even more vulnerable, and as weapons were collected, the mere act of possessing one was twisted into evidence of rebellion, further demonizing the already beleaguered community. Step by step, under the guise of wartime necessities and internal security, the groundwork for a systematic extermination was being laid. The Young Turks' reign was not just about political change, it was the indication of an impending catastrophe for the Assyrians. The Brutality Unveiled. As the sun rose over Assyrian villages, its light unveiled chilling sights. The aftermath of nightmarish massacres. Homes once filled with laughter were ransacked, and streets where children once played were littered with corpses, testimony to the heinous acts committed in the shadow of night. A name that became synonymous with this bloodshed was Javdet Bey and his infamous Butcher Battalion. Under his command, this battalion wasn't just responsible for combat, they specialized in the art of terror. Village after village, they left behind a trail of death and despair. From tortures to cold-blooded murders, their savagery knew no bounds. Yet, as if this weren't enough, another spectre of doom loomed in the form of Mahmud Rashid Bey. Cunning and deceptive, he started campaigns of extermination under the veil of relocation, promising safety and resettlement. He lured unsuspecting Christian populations, only to lead them to their untimely deaths. His tactics were not just physical, but psychological, breaking the spirits of communities even before their eventual annihilation. The fabric of a centuries-old community was being torn apart thread by thread. With these two figures as its chief architects, the once thriving Assyrian heartland was transformed into an arena of atrocities. Its people faced with horrors. Assyrian Responses. Amidst the shadows of such immense adversity, the Assyrians weren't just passive victims, they were faced with three stark choices: submit to the oppressors, flee their ancestral lands, or stand their ground and fight. Many families had to make split-second decisions that would determine the fate of generations. One name that stands tall amidst the chaos is Mar Shimun, a beacon of hope for the besieged community. He courageously led his people through these dark times. Determined to preserve the dignity and identity of the Assyrians, Mar Shimun engaged in negotiations with the very forces that sought their destruction. When diplomacy failed, resistance became the only option. Many took up arms, and under Mar Shimun's leadership, they mounted a courageous defense of their homeland. Despite overwhelming odds, they managed to carve a path to refuge, eventually finding solace in Russia, a nation far from home, but one that offered a glimmer of hope. Yet the journey was full of sacrifices that tested the very soul of the community. In one heart-wrenching episode, Mar Shimun was given a cruel ultimatum to surrender himself or witness the execution of his beloved brother. Such stories exemplify the excruciating choices the Assyrians had to make, decisions no one should ever be forced into. These tales of resilience and sacrifice underscore the indomitable spirit of a people refusing to be erased. Before we move on, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting videos. The peaks of resistance. So, amid the ongoing persecution of the Assyrians stood firm. Two key stories of defiance are Anvado and Azza. Here they push back against their attackers, refusing to be overwhelmed. Their wins weren't just about raw power, they used smart strategies. They turned their villages into defenses, making the most of the landscape. This wasn't just about fighting, it was about protecting their way of life with everything they had. While the Assyrians were locked in a life and death struggle, the geopolitics of the era presented a unique dynamic. Many nations turned a blind eye to the Assyrians' plight, while some covertly supported the Ottoman persecution. Interestingly, the Germans, who were allies of the Ottomans, showed a marked reluctance to aid them in their campaign against the Assyrians. This lack of support didn't tip the balance in the Assyrians' favour, but it provided them with a small, albeit crucial, window of opportunity to regroup and resist. The message was clear: even under extreme pressure, people can and will fight back. The tragic outcomes. Despite their resilience, the Assyrians faced unspeakable losses. Estimates suggest that up to 300,000 Assyrians were killed during this dark period. These numbers aren't just statistics, they represent families torn apart, cultures disrupted, and a people forever scarred. Following these massive killings, the Assyrian community faced another challenge: displacement. Hundreds of thousands were forced from their homes. They left behind not just brick and mortar, but memories, traditions, and centuries of history. The lands that had heard Assyrian laughter and prayers for generations became eerily silent. Yet, amid the ruins and memories, a few Assyrians refused to give in. Their resistance wasn't about battles or warfare, it was about holding on to their identity, even when the world seemed to have turned its back on them. International recognition, or lack thereof. The aftermath of such vast devastation demanded accountability, but the Paris Peace Conference that followed World War I disappointingly sidestepped the matter. While victors deliberated on new borders and retributions, the horrifying scale of the Assyrian Genocide was largely unaddressed, creating a gaping void in the annals of international justice. Fast forward to today, and this somber event remains under-acknowledged. Only 4 countries have formally recognized the Assyrian Genocide, a stark reminder of the international community's collective amnesia. The weight of this neglect is further magnified when juxtaposed with the acknowledgement of other historical atrocities. Turkey's stance as the successor of the Ottoman Empire remains a point of contention. As recent as 2023, President Erdogan unequivocally denied the genocide, sticking to a narrative that deflects responsibility. Such a stance not only perpetuates the pain of the Assyrian community, but also underscores the challenges faced in reconciling with the past. The fight for recognition continues. While the recognition of the Assyrian Genocide remains limited on the global stage, the Assyrian community persists in its tireless endeavour to bring this dark chapter of history to light. Driven by a need to honour the memories of those lost and to ensure their ancestors' sufferings are not forgotten, Assyrians worldwide are spearheading initiatives, mobilising communities and raising their voices louder than ever. The importance of this fight extends beyond mere acknowledgement. Grasping the magnitude of the Assyrian Genocide isn't just about righting historical wrongs, it's about understanding the patterns that led to such atrocities. By examining and absorbing the lessons from the past, societies can work towards preventing future instances of intolerance and violence. Every retold story, every shared fact, and every voiced concern inches the world closer to recognizing the brutalities faced by the Assyrians. While the road to widespread acknowledgement might be long, the Assyrian community's resilience and determination underline their unwavering commitment to ensure this piece of history is never forgotten. The Assyrian Genocide, a shadowed atrocity, remains a prime example of human cruelty. Despite the overwhelming adversity, the Assyrian community's resolve stands unbroken, striving for acknowledgement and justice. But the question we're left with is, in an age where information is more accessible than ever, why do such chapters of history remain shrouded in silence?